Welcome to my channel, and today I want to share a story that will touch your heart and inspire you like never before. It's about a young woman who chose love over money and a man who had nothing but a broken past, and how together, through determination, trust, and kindness, they built a life that no one thought was possible. Their journey is full of challenges, hope, and lessons we can all learn from. So let's start this incredible story. The wedding hall fell silent as Aunt Nkosazana's voice cut through the air like a thunderclap. "You married a nobody, a complete nobody," she screamed, her finger trembling as she pointed at Adana. Every conversation ceased. Even the children playing outside stopped in mid-laugh, turning their wide eyes toward the doors. The music that had filled the hall just moments ago halted abruptly, leaving only the echo of her words. Aunt Nkosazana's face was twisted with fury, her eyes flashing with anger and disbelief. "Mark my words, girl. You will suffer. You will beg on the streets because of this foolish decision." Adana's hands shook as she clutched her small bouquet of white flowers, feeling the weight of every eye in the room upon her. Her husband, Olumide, stood beside her, his head lowered, worn shoes brushing the floor. He said nothing, only held her hand, grounding her with silent support. Around them, the few guests, perhaps 20 in total, whispered quietly. Some chuckled nervously, others shook their heads with pity. But before the judgment could settle completely, one needed to understand how Adana had arrived at this moment. The path that had led her to marry a man deemed by everyone else as a nobody. 6 months earlier, Adana worked at a small beauty salon in the bustling city of Lagos. She washed hair, swept floors, and learned the intricate art of braiding. Her earnings were modest, yet enough to send a little money home to her mother in the township. People often commented on Adana's beauty, her smooth, radiant dark skin, her sparkling eyes, and a smile that seemed to brighten even the gloomiest of days. Wealthy men sought her attention, business owners tried to woo her, and even a prominent pastor once asked her to dinner. Yet Adana politely declined every offer. "Why do you refuse them?" her friends asked. "These men can take care of you, provide everything you need." She merely smiled and returned to her work, her mind elsewhere. One rainy Tuesday afternoon, a man walked into the salon. His clothes were soaked, shoes with holes in the soles, and he carried a broken umbrella that did little to protect him from the relentless downpour. "Please," he said quietly, "do you have anything I can use to dry off? I'll leave soon. I don't want to dirty your floors." The salon owner, Mrs. Mukoro, looked at him with contempt. "We don't allow beggars here. Leave immediately." But Adana stepped forward, draping a towel around his shoulders. "Wait," she said softly. "It's only rain. Everyone deserves shelter from the storm." The man looked at her in surprise, his dark brown eyes shining with quiet dignity despite the dirt on his clothes. "Thank you, sister. God bless you. What is your name?" "Adana," she replied. "And yours?" "Oba," he said, his voice soft but steady. Mrs. Mukoro grabbed Adana's arm, her voice sharp. "Are you crazy? Don't talk to strangers like this. He probably wants to steal something." Adana ignored her. There was something about Oba that was different. He spoke clearly, politely, and carried himself with a quiet sense of honor, even in destitution. His eyes held a story, a glimmer of dreams that had once been alive. "Where do you stay?" Adana asked. Oba hesitated. "I sleep wherever I can find space. Sometimes behind the market, sometimes at the bus station. I lost everything." Adana's heart ached. "How did you end up like this?" "It's a long story, sister," Oba admitted. "I made mistakes, serious ones. I lost my job, my home, and my family's trust. And no one wants anything to do with me." Most would have walked away, dismissing him as a man destroyed by his own choices. But Adana saw something different. She saw honesty, humility, and a spark of determination. "Wait here," she said. She went to the back of the salon and returned with a sandwich and an apple she had brought from home. "Here," she offered. "Eat, you need it." Oba stared at the food as if it were treasure. "I cannot take this from you," he whispered. "Yes, you can," she insisted. "I'll buy more later. For now, just eat." Tears welled in Oba's eyes. "You don't even know me. Why are you being so kind?" Adana shrugged. "Because everyone deserves kindness, even when life is hard." From that day forward, Oba returned to the salon every week. Adana would save a little food for him. Slowly, she learned about his past. He had been an accountant for a large firm, deceived into complicity by the wrong people. He had served time in prison, lost his family, and was shunned by society. Yet despite all of this, he had not lost his dignity. Weeks turned into months. Adana helped Oba find odd jobs, washing cars, delivering groceries, fixing small things around the neighborhood. She gave him clothes her brother no longer wore and encouraged him to persevere. And gradually, a quiet, deep love began to grow between them. Not the flashy love seen in movies, but the kind that thrives in small gestures, in shared hardships and mutual respect. One evening, under the glowing orange sunset of Lagos, Oba took her hands in his. "Adana," he said, his voice trembling, "I have nothing to give you. No house, no money, no car. I am an ex-convict, with no one to vouch for me. But I love you. I promise, if you give me a chance, I will spend every day of my life trying to be worthy of you. Will you marry me?" Adana looked into his eyes and saw not the failures of the past, but the promise of a future built on perseverance, integrity, and love. "Yes," she whispered, "I will marry you." That single decision changed everything. The news of Adana's engagement spread through the township like wildfire. By the time the wedding day arrived, her family's disapproval had reached a fever pitch. Her mother, Oluwafunke, wept openly. "Adana, have you lost your mind? You are marrying a homeless man, an ex-convict. What have I done to deserve this shame?" Her older brothers shook their heads, voices trembling with frustration and anger. "You are bringing disgrace to our family name," they said. "You are throwing away a life of comfort and opportunity for nothing." And then there was Aunt Nkosazana. She was relentless. Everywhere she went in the neighborhood, she told anyone who would listen about her niece's foolishness. She painted Oba as a man without honor, without ambition, and unworthy of Adana's beauty and kindness. "That girl is far too proud," she said. "Now she thinks she is better than everyone. Choosing a street beggar over men with good jobs and money? She'll learn the hard way." Even Adana's friends abandoned her. At the salon, women whispered and giggled whenever she entered. Neighbors stared with a mixture of pity and amusement. "There goes the girl marrying the homeless man," they murmured. Yet, through it all, one person offered support, her grandmother, Mama Ayo. The old woman's eyes, warm and wise, met Adana's. "Child," she said, "people will always judge what they don't understand. You follow your heart. If this man respects you, loves you, and works hard, that is what matters. Money comes and goes, but character lasts forever." The wedding day itself was humble, set in a modest community hall. Only 20 people attended, curious neighbors, a few supportive friends, and the grandmother who had never left Adana's side. Adana wore a simple white dress. Oba wore a suit, purchased second-hand, its fabric slightly frayed but neatly pressed. The ceremony began quietly, with the pastor speaking about love and commitment. For a brief moment, it seemed like nothing could disrupt their union. But then Aunt Nkosazana stormed into the hall, her voice shrill and angry. "And stop this nonsense!" she bellowed, marching down the aisle. "Adana, I give you one last chance. Walk away from this foolishness before you ruin your life with this man who has nothing." Oba's face flushed red with shame. He lowered his eyes, saying nothing, yet his hand held Adana's tightly. Every eye in the room turned toward her. The pastor froze, unsure how to proceed. Guests whispered in excited anticipation, savoring the drama that had erupted. Adana's hands trembled as she looked between her husband and her aunt. Then, with a calm that startled everyone, she spoke. "You are right about one thing, Auntie. Oba has nothing. No money, no house, no car. But he has something far more important. He has a good heart, honesty, and respect. That is worth more than any wealth in this world." The hall fell silent. Even Aunt Nkosazana, who had spent the past hour fuming, could not respond. Adana continued, her voice steady. "When we face hunger and hardship, we will face it together. Step by step, day by day, we will build our life. Not because of money or status, but because of love, determination, and trust in each other." Her aunt stormed out, slamming the door so hard the walls shook. Half of the guests left with her, shaking their heads and muttering about foolish youth. But the remaining guests watched as Adana and Oba continued their vows, promising to honor, respect, and love each other, despite society's judgment. When the pastor finally said, "You may kiss your bride," Oba lifted her gently and pressed his lips to hers. Tears rolled down both their faces. They were married, they were united, and in the eyes of the township, they were the subject of gossip and ridicule. The first year of their marriage was harsh. They lived in a tiny shack made of corrugated metal sheets. Every corner was cramped. Rain leaked through the roof, and the thin mattress they shared was their only bed. Their meals were scarce, often a single portion of pepé and vegetables. Meat was a rare luxury, afforded only once a month. Adana continued her work at the salon, while Oba took any job he could find. Washing cars, delivering goods, painting fences, digging ditches. Some days he earned only a few naira, some days nothing at all. Neighbors watched their struggle and whispered, "See, we told her it was a mistake." Aunt Nkosazana made it her mission to report every hardship, her voice dripping with schadenfreude. "Did you hear? They couldn't pay the electricity bill again. They are sitting in the dark like rats. That is what happens when you marry for love instead of money." Adana's old friends avoided her. Women at the salon stopped inviting her to lunch or sharing gossip. Yet, inside their tiny shack, something extraordinary was happening. Night after night, after exhausting workdays, Adana and Oba sat together, planning. Oba borrowed books from the library on business, mathematics, and entrepreneurship. "I destroyed my life once," he told her softly. "This time, I will build it right. Slowly, honestly, carefully." Adana believed in him. Adana. She saved every coin she could, brought her own meals to work, and contributed everything they could spare to a hidden jar beneath the mattress. 6 months later, they had saved 30,000 naira, a small sum, but enough to take their first big step, purchasing a small fruit stand from an elderly vendor at the local market. Oba proposed paying 30,000 naira now and settling the rest over the next 2 months, working tirelessly to keep the business afloat while continuing his odd jobs. It was risky, but they trusted each other. And together, they stepped into a future filled with hope, determination, and the first seeds of their new life. The first days running the fruit stand tested both Adana and Oba in ways they had never imagined. Rising before dawn, Oba would rush to the market to select fresh fruits and vegetables, learning to inspect each mango, tomato, and pepper for quality. Adana, after a long day at the salon, would join him in arranging the produce neatly on the stand, making each pile inviting, colorful, and appealing to customers. The tiny space became a hive of energy, determination, and hope. At first, sales were slow. People walked past, whispering, "Isn't that the man who used to sleep at the bus station? How can he run a business?" But Oba refused to let their doubts discourage him. He studied every detail, the placement of the fruit, the freshness of the items, the way to greet every passerby with a smile. He discovered that those who were polite and kind to customers often earned more business than those who simply shouted their prices. Slowly, his reputation grew. Oba introduced small innovations. He offered free delivery to elderly customers who could not come to the market themselves. He created simple loyalty cards, buy 10 times, get 1 free. And he kept the stand open later than everyone else, working under the fading light of sunset while others had already gone home. Customers noticed. "That man treats people well," they said. "His fruit is always fresh and he cares about us." Word spread, slowly but steadily, and people began returning to his stand. Adana and Oba began to see the fruits of their efforts. Within 3 months, their daily earnings covered the cost of the stand and a few extra needs. They reinvested every coin back into their small business. By 6 months, they had completely paid off the vendor, and the fruit stand was officially theirs. Their confidence grew with each passing day, but the work remained grueling. Every evening, they would sit in their small shack, exhausted but planning the next day. Oba still borrowed books from the library, teaching himself about business, accounting, and customer relations. "I made mistakes before because I didn't understand the value of responsibility," he said one night. "Now, I'll do it right." step by step, day by day. Adana, in turn, continued to sacrifice. She stopped buying new clothes, carried her lunch from home, and saved every coin she could. "Everything we save now is an investment in our future," she told herself. Together, they learned discipline, patience, and the quiet power of persistence. Even as they struggled, the whispers in the township continued. "See? She married a homeless man. Look at them now, living in that shack." Aunt Nkosazana still spread her judgment, relishing in the hardships she expected them to face. Yet, every hardship also strengthened Adana and Oba's bond. They celebrated small victories. A day with higher sales than usual, a satisfied customer who returned with gratitude, a little extra money saved for the future. Their relationship deepened. Love grew not from grand gestures or lavish gifts, but from shared effort, trust, and mutual respect. Oba would laugh at Adana's jokes, lightening the long days. Adana admired Oba's resilience, his determination to rebuild his life from nothing. They supported each other in every way, creating a partnership stronger than any wealth or status could provide. One particularly rainy afternoon, as water pooled around their tiny shack and the wind rattled the tin roof, Oba held Adana's hand and whispered, "Do you ever regret marrying me?" Adana shook her head, her eyes soft with love. "Not for a single second. I married your heart, not your money, and your heart has always been rich." In the months that followed, they expanded the business carefully. Oba learned to source fruits at lower costs from reliable suppliers, negotiate better deals, and create trust with regular customers. Adana continued her work at the salon while supporting him at the stand, sometimes staying late to help with deliveries. Slowly, the town began to notice something remarkable. The man who had been homeless was becoming successful. Some neighbors whispered doubts, but others watched quietly in awe. "Perhaps there is more to him than we thought," they murmured. The laughter and mockery that had greeted their marriage began to fade, replaced by curiosity and eventually respect. Through persistence, discipline, and shared vision, the small fruit stand transformed from a humble venture into a source of stability and hope. Every coin saved, every hour worked, and every challenge overcome became a step toward a life they could build together against all odds. By the end of the first year, Adana and Oba's diligence was beginning to pay off. Their single fruit stand, once barely making enough to cover costs, had become a steady source of income. Oba now knew which suppliers offered the best fruits at the lowest prices. He arranged the produce to look vibrant and inviting, trained his few helpers to greet customers warmly, and made sure no buyer ever left disappointed. Adana managed deliveries for the elderly and infirm, expanding their customer base without spending a single extra naira. Word spread fast through the township. "That is the man who used to sleep at the bus station," people said, shaking their heads in disbelief as they visited his stand. "Now he has a proper business and treats everyone with respect." Even Aunt Nkosazana, when she heard the whispers, tried to dismiss them. "2 fruit stands? That's nothing," she scoffed. "They are still poor, just wait, it won't last." But Oba was undeterred. He reinvested every naira they earned. 6 months later, they managed to purchase a second stand at a different bus station. Adana would run one in the afternoon after her salon shift, and Oba would manage the other in the morning before his daily odd jobs. The coordination was exhausting, yet it brought results. Customers began to recognize them by name. They returned for their loyalty cards, for the friendly service, and for the reliable freshness of the produce. The couple's life was still simple, but they began to taste the rewards of their labor. Within 2 years, they had 5 fruit stands across Lagos, each generating enough to hire staff and cover living expenses. Their neighbors, once skeptical and scornful, now whispered in admiration and disbelief. "That man, the one everyone mocked, he's actually thriving." Even Aunt Nkosazana could no longer ignore the change. Yet, pride prevented her from admitting defeat. She sat stiffly at gatherings, pretending not to notice the thriving business, dismissing it as luck or coincidence. But the township knew the truth. Oba and Adana had built something extraordinary from nothing. Through all the success, Oba never forgot his humble beginnings. He hired young men and women who had been marginalized, former prisoners, homeless people, single mothers. giving them the same chance he had been given. "Everyone deserves a second chance," he told them. "Just like I did." Adana joined him in mentoring young women at the salon, teaching them the skills they needed to succeed while instilling confidence and hope. Within 3 years, their business had expanded beyond fruits and vegetables. They began importing specialty items, supplying hotels and restaurants with fresh produce that few other vendors could provide. Oba's accounting knowledge, once wasted, became a powerful tool. He carefully managed expenses, avoided unnecessary risks, and applied every lesson learned from his past mistakes. Their marriage too flourished. Love remained the quiet foundation of their life, built not on luxury, but on shared vision, respect, and hard work. They celebrated every milestone together. The first paid-off fruit stand, their first employee hired, the first major wholesale contract. Each success reinforced their belief in themselves and in each other. By the 4th year, they were able to leave their cramped shack behind. They purchased a modest house with 3 bedrooms in a safe, decent neighborhood. It wasn't a mansion, but it was beautiful, secure, and theirs. Adana opened her own salon with modern equipment, employing women from the township who needed work, while Oba continued to oversee the growing network of stands and supply contracts. People who had mocked them at their wedding now stared in shock and disbelief. "That homeless man, he's successful," they whispered. "And she built her own business too." Even Aunt Nkosazana could not deny the reality, though her pride kept her silent in public. Through perseverance, discipline, and faith in each other, the couple had not only overcome the initial scorn and hardship, they had transformed it into fuel for success. Their story began to spread through the township, inspiring young men and women to see beyond appearances, to trust in effort, character, and resilience. Oba and Adana had learned that wealth is not only measured in money, but in integrity, love, and the courage to keep going when the world doubts you. And through it all, their bond deepened, proving that shared struggle can forge a love stronger than any luxury or title. By the 5th year of their marriage, Adana and Oba had become more than just successful entrepreneurs. They had become a source of inspiration in their community. Their fruit stands had grown from 5 to 12 locations across Lagos, employing over 100 people. Each stand was managed with precision, and every employee knew the couple's philosophy: respect, hard work, and giving people second chances. Former prisoners, struggling mothers, and young men who had nowhere else to turn found opportunities through Oba and Adana, and in turn, they poured their efforts into the business. Despite their success, the couple remained humble. Oba, who had once slept on the streets and begged for food, never forgot those early days. He personally checked in with each employee, offering guidance and support. Adana continued to expand her salon business, opening a second location and training young women from the township in professional hairdressing, customer service, and entrepreneurship. Word of their achievements spread far and wide, reaching even those who had once mocked them. Aunt Nkosazana, who had spent years deriding their union, received an invitation to a special celebration they organized at the very community hall where their wedding had taken place. Invitations were sent to everyone who had laughed at them, doubted them, or criticized their choices, including neighbors, friends, and even family members. On the day of the celebration, the hall was transformed. Tables overflowed with food, vibrant decorations filled the room, and music and laughter echoed through every corner. Adana arrived in a stunning dress, radiant and confident, while Oba stood tall in a tailored suit that reflected the success he had worked so tirelessly to achieve. "Thank you all for coming," Oba began, his voice commanding and steady. "5 years ago, many of you witnessed our wedding here. At that time, you thought we were making a terrible mistake. You believed I was a nobody, a man who would drag my wife into poverty and suffering. By all accounts, you were right. I had nothing. I was homeless, an ex-convict with no family or opportunities. By logic, Adana should have walked away from me." The audience shifted uncomfortably. Memories of harsh words, laughter, and whispers filled the hall. Aunt Nkosazana sat in the back, arms crossed, face rigid with disbelief. "But Adana saw something no one else did," Oba continued, his voice cracking with emotion. She saw potential. She saw a man willing to work hard and change. She gave me a chance I didn't deserve. That chance changed my life. Because of her, I wake up every day determined to be better, to build something lasting, and to treat others with the kindness I received when no one else would offer it. Adana stepped forward. "We are here not to brag," she said, her voice strong and clear. "We are here to say thank you. Thank you to everyone who doubted us. Your doubts made us work harder. Thank you to everyone who laughed at our wedding. Your laughter motivated us to prove you wrong. Thank you to everyone who said our marriage would fail. You made us more determined to succeed." She turned to her aunt, who looked away, unable to meet her gaze. "And thank you to my aunt, who said I would beg on the streets. You reminded me that I never wanted to live my life depending on anyone else's approval, except my own and my husband E.S. That lesson was priceless." Gasps of astonishment spread through the hall as Oba announced, "Today, we own 12 businesses across Lagos. We employ over 100 people. We have paid off our house completely, and we have saved enough to start a foundation that helps ex-convicts and homeless people rebuild their lives. Every person deserves a second chance." The hall erupted in applause. Former skeptics approached, some with tears in their eyes, to offer apologies, shake hands, and ask for guidance. Adana's mother wept openly, embracing her daughter. "I was wrong," she said, "so terribly wrong. Please forgive me." Adana held her mother close. "There is nothing to forgive. You were only trying to protect me." Her brothers, friends, and even some former salon colleagues also apologized, humbled by the couple's journey. Aunt Nkosazana remained silent, pride keeping her seated in the back. Yet even she could not deny the truth unfolding before her. That night, as the celebration ended, Adana and Oba returned to their home. They held hands, reflecting on the journey from a tiny shack to a thriving household and empire. "Do you ever regret marrying me when I had nothing?" Oba asked softly. "Not for a single second," Adana replied. "I married your heart, and your heart was always rich, even when your pockets were empty. Everything we have exists because we believed in each other." Their story had become legendary. Across Lagos and beyond, people spoke of the woman who chose love over wealth and the man who rebuilt his life through hard work, honesty, and perseverance. Young girls learned that choosing character over money is a mark of wisdom, not folly. Young men realized that past mistakes do not define the future unless you allow them to. Oba and Adana had proved that real love, combined with determination, patience, and resilience, could overcome any obstacle. And more importantly, they had shown that judging someone by their present circumstances rather than their potential is a mistake, one they themselves had defied with courage and heart. The years that followed cemented Adana and Oba's story as a legend in their community. Their 12 businesses thrived, providing stable employment and hope for hundreds of people. Their foundation, dedicated to helping ex-convicts and homeless individuals rebuild their lives, became a model for social entrepreneurship. People who once mocked them now sought their guidance, eager to learn how to combine hard work, ethics, and determination to create success. Adana's salon continued to flourish, employing and mentoring young women from the township. She taught not only professional skills, but also the importance of confidence, independence, and choosing character over convenience or wealth. "No one else can define your worth," she would say. "Only you and your choices matter." Oba, meanwhile, remained the humble, diligent man he had always been. Despite owning multiple businesses and living in a beautiful home, he never forgot the days of hunger and humiliation. He made it a rule to personally check in on employees, ensuring fair treatment, respect, and opportunity for all. "Everyone deserves a second chance," he reminded his staff regularly. "We all start somewhere. What matters is where we're willing to go." The couple's story continued to inspire young people across Lagos. School teachers, youth leaders, and community elders told it repeatedly, highlighting the lessons it carried. Never judge someone by their current circumstances. True love is built on trust, respect, and shared vision. Persistence, discipline, and humility can turn adversity into success. Second chances can change lives if you have the courage to believe in people. Even Aunt Nkosazana eventually softened. Though she never publicly apologized, she privately admitted to herself the truth she had once refused to see. That love, faith, and hard work could achieve far more than arrogance, judgment, or material wealth. Over time, she began supporting the couple's initiatives quietly, realizing that their achievements were built on lessons she could never teach herself. Adana and Oba often reflected on their journey. They remembered the tiny shack where they had slept on a thin mattress, the meager meals, and the endless days of toil. They remembered the whispers, laughter, and judgment from neighbors, friends, and even family. And yet, they also remembered the unwavering faith they had in each other, the tiny victories that built their confidence, and the love that had never wavered. One quiet evening, years after their first struggle, Oba held Adana's hand as they looked out over their thriving business empire from the balcony of their home. "Do you remember when we had nothing?" he asked softly. Adana smiled, her eyes shining. "How could I forget? But do you know what's more important than that?" "What?" Oba asked. "The fact that we believed in each other when no one else did," she said. "That made all the difference. Our love, our trust, and our perseverance. That's what built this life. That's what makes it ours." Their story became more than a tale of success. It became a symbol of hope, courage, and the power of human resilience. Weddings, family gatherings, and community events began to reference it, not merely as an example of love overcoming hardship, but as a blueprint for life that with integrity, patience, and dedication, even the humblest beginnings could lead to greatness. And so, Adana and Oba lived not just as wealthy business owners, but as living proof that love and character could conquer judgment, poverty, and societal doubt. They remained partners in every sense, sharing dreams, hardships, successes, and the profound understanding that their journey had been shaped not by luck, but by the choices they made together every day. The legacy of their love, resilience, and determination echoed across generations, teaching the township and beyond a timeless lesson. Never underestimate the power of faith in people, the strength of love, and the potential that lies within even the most overlooked and underestimated among us. And that's the incredible journey of Adana and Oba. A story of love, determination, and the power of believing in each other when no one else would. They showed us that no matter where you start in life, your choices, your heart, and your perseverance can create a future beyond anyone's imagination. If this story inspired you, remember to always follow your heart, work hard, and never underestimate the strength of kindness and second chances. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more amazing stories that touch the heart.